The camera never blinked. At 3:12 a.m., it watched a man struggle across a dim apartment courtyard, rain slicking the concrete into a mirror. He carried a white plastic laundry basket against his chest, arms locked tight, breath fogging the air. The basket sagged unnaturally, one side bowed as if whatever was inside had shifted, heavy, uncooperative. The man paused beneath the light, set the basket down, and wiped his face with his sleeve. That pause, 4 seconds long, would become the most replayed moment of the case. Inside apartment 3B, across town, a phone buzzed on a nightstand. "You okay?" the message read. No one answered. Earlier that evening, everyone had seen Ava Morales alive. She laughed in the elevator with Mrs. Klein from 4D, talking about the leaky faucet that never got fixed. She texted her brother a photo of burnt toast, culinary disaster, and promised to call their mother on Sunday. She argued, softly but firmly, with her boyfriend Daniel in the parking lot. Witnesses remembered that part later. They always do. Daniel had smiled then, hands raised. "I'm calm,"
I'm cool
he
now.
said. Ava had turned away. The building settled into sleep the way old buildings do. Pipes knocking, vents sighing, televisions murmuring themselves to silence. By midnight, the courtyard was empty. By 1, the rain began. At 3:12, the camera watched the basket. The discovery came with the morning trash run. Mr. Ortega, who had lived in the building for 30 years and trusted routine more than luck, noticed the basket tucked behind the dumpster. White against black plastic. Too neat. He nudged it with his foot and recoiled at the weight. The lid had been snapped shut. Police arrived before the rain could wash the courtyard clean. The basket was lifted gently, reverently, as if it might shatter. When it opened, the city seemed to inhale all at once. The headlines would say laundry basket because it softened the truth. It made the horror domestic, manageable. It avoided saying body folded wrong or violence arranged to look tidy. Daniel watched the news from his couch, jaw clenched, hands steady. He called Ava's phone twice, left a voicemail. "Hey, call me." His voice was normal. That detail mattered later. The power shift began with a timestamp. Detective Lila Chen rewound the footage frame by frame. She noticed how the man adjusted his grip, how his knee buckled slightly under the weight, how he looked up, not at the camera, but at the apartment windows, as if checking for witnesses. Then she froze the image. A smear on his sleeve, dark, wet. "Enhance," she said. The lab would later confirm it. Blood. Ava's. Daniel was brought in that afternoon. He cried when he heard the word basket. He covered his mouth and shook his head and said he couldn't believe it. He said he'd gone to bed early. He said he'd left Ava alone after their argument. He said a lot of things. When Chen asked about the basket, he frowned. "I don't own one like that." True enough, his apartment had no basket, but the building did. Shared laundry room, basement level, camera blind spot. Chen felt the story tilt. The laundry room smelled like detergent and damp concrete. A single fluorescent tube flickered overhead. The shelf where baskets were kept sat half empty. One space was dusted clean. Chen ran her finger along the shelf and found a thin red line already drying. Upstairs, Mrs. Klein remembered hearing the machines late. "Too late," she said. "I thought it was strange." Down the hall, a college kid remembered Daniel borrowing a keycard earlier in the week. Said he lost his. Every detail was small. Together they began to weigh. The lab returned results. Fibers from the basket matched fibers in Daniel's car trunk. The smear on his sleeve matched a cut on his forearm. Fresh, poorly cleaned. When Chen showed him the still frame from the camera, Daniel leaned back in his chair. "That could be anyone," he said. "It could," Chen agreed, "but it looks a lot like you." He smiled then, thin and tired. Looks don't convict. He wasn't wrong. The trial turned the basket into a prop. The defense called it circumstantial. The prosecution called it unmistakable. Chen watched jurors' faces as the footage played. The pause under the light, the basket sagging, the man wiping his face. Ava's brother testified about the burnt toast text, about Sunday calls that never came. Daniel's voicemail played, steady and normal, and the room went quiet. Dramatic irony pressed in on everyone at once. The man asking if she was okay already knew the answer. The verdict came back, guilty. Justice, the city said, had been served. Daniel was sentenced to life. The basket was sealed and stored. The building replaced the cameras. People learned to look away from the dumpster. Chen filed the case and tried to sleep. It was the janitor who ruined the ending. 2 months later, during renovations, he found a phone wedged behind a dryer in the basement laundry room. Cracked screen, dead battery. It had been there long enough to collect lint and dust, long enough to be forgotten. The SIM card was intact. Chen charged the phone and watched the messages load. "You okay? Please answer. I hear someone." The last message sent at 3:09 a.m., 3 minutes before the basket appeared. The phone's camera roll held a single video, shaky, dark, Ava's breath loud in the microphone, a man's voice off screen, not Daniel's. Chen felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. She played the video again, louder this time. A second voice, low, calm. "Put it in the basket." The camera jostled. A blur of white plastic crossed the frame. Then the video cut out. Chen's pulse hammered. She pulled the CCTV again and watched the man beneath the light. He was alone. Or he wanted it to look that way. She zoomed the frame, past the man's shoulder, past the glare. There, just at the edge of the courtyard, movement. A shadow slipping back. Someone waiting by the stairwell. A major power shift rippled through the room. Daniel had carried the basket, but he hadn't been alone. Chen reopened the case quietly. Phone records showed another device pinging the same tower that night. Burner, unregistered. It went dark at 3:15 a.m. The life sentence suddenly felt like a door closed too early. Chen stood in the evidence room and stared at the basket through glass. It had done its job, contained the mess, simplified the story, given the city an ending it could accept. But stories lie when they're too neat. Justice had been served, yes, just not all of it. As Chen locked the file and reached for her coat, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. A photo appeared. The laundry room shelf. One space empty. Captioned with 4 words. "Some baskets get reused." Chen looked at the timestamp. 3 minutes ago. And somewhere, a camera was still watching.